Lumpin' Radio for having us on yet again. Probably because of the smooth sailing.
They say such professionals. We got to have those guys back.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be
no amateurs.
No, it's just you say you want a show before anybody else and before the radio show starts, and then they just can't. It would be too awkward for them to one day when you show up to be like, you know what? This isn't really working. It's you, not us.
The second best beer show on this huge radio station.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I've won an award in years past.
Which award did you give yourself?
The Guild Writers. I don't know.
Yeah. How'd you do this year, Chris?
Every podcast I submitted, I won, I guess. I didn't submit. I haven't submitted since I won. That's not true. I submitted the next year, and I didn't win, and then I gave up.
50%.
How did you do?
Did you give up, or did you just?
I got an honorable mention for podcasts, so I feel like I'm carrying a lot of weight.
You did.
Yeah, thank you for doing your research in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
Wait, which podcast?
The one that I don't do anymore.
Oh,
okay.
Steal This Beer.
Okay. Yeah.
Steal this
I
podcast.
still do that one.
Oh, you still do that one? Okay. I'm really doing my
Wait, is it cereal?
research.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard you on there in a while.
All right,
Yeah,
let me get through this intro. I can already tell
fine.
this is going to be really, really smooth sailing. So I want to thank Lumpin' Radio and its fearless leader, Logan Bay, and also Jamie Trecker, who is a little bit under the weather. So hope you're feeling better. I'm sure he's listening right now and just, hopefully anger is the best medicine, and I'm making him feel better. If you're listening over the airwaves, welcome, 105.5 FM. If you're listening via podcast, welcome to you as well. Thanks for downloading us. We just got onto Spotify.
That new technology.
Yeah.
Where the big money is.
Yeah, I was bored yesterday, and I was like, let me submit this thing to Spotify.
The Chris Quinn School of Business.
Yeah. So I got us on Spotify, so that's a good thing. And so welcome to all you Spotify people. I'm sure you're in the tens of one person, maybe if I'm lucky. No, we have a good audience. And if you guys are listening, thank you very much. Always appreciate the reviews and the emails and stuff like that. If you do want to reach out, it's insiders@craftbeertemple.com, or you can write an actual letter. We found the missing letter has been found, but it's with Jamie, who is too sick and refuses to come downstairs and give me the letter. So we'll have to wait another week for that'll be 2 weeks in a row. We've had we've had handwritten letters. So how many handwritten letters does your award honorable mentioning podcast get, John?
Do you count the prison letters or no?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, if I didn't count those, then...
And scores, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, that's good. Then you know how good it feels to get a handwritten letter. So, for those listening for the first time, the idea of this show is to really give you a look into the inner workings of the beer industry, which is a well-oiled machine.
Everything always goes perfectly right. Just like this podcast.
Right. So, no, it's my kind of attempt to recreate times where I get together with people in the industry. People have made craft beer a part of their life. Not necessarily in the industry, I should say, but people who've made beer a part of their life and who want to... we get together and have conversations about the industry, about things that are a part of our life and what we think about on a day-to-day basis, and just try to capture that in podcast form. That is the Insiders Roundtable, and I will get to this week's guests, who seem very comfortable on the mic already, very, very comfortable, making fun of me and my flawless starts. Really what you don't realize is you're just... making fun of the producer, obviously. So, just making fun of Cole.
He's crying.
Yeah, he's crying.
This is the earliest a producer has cried in this show in a long time.
Months.
Yeah.
So, let me get to my guests, but I must mention that my guests' opinions are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any other entity they may be affiliated with, such as Lumpen Radio or the Beer Temple. I think I hear somebody's being loud out there. It's probably Edmar, so I'm guessing we're going to be crashed pretty soon. But anyway, I will introduce my guests in order of seniority, that being how many times they've been on the show. So with that, we have a clear leader in the seniority until we get crashed. So I'll quickly introduce you, Mike Schallau, before Edmar comes in and has to be introduced first. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good.
What's new with Is Was?
We're brewing a spruce tip and honey beer right now called Tree Tipper.
Cool.
So I did this.
Wait, not some weird confusing language thing like will be, is was,
will be.
Always
or
zag. Yeah.
Bourgeois daydreams, which
Yeah.
you asked me, I think a couple months ago, like how soon until you have unpronounceable French names, and I was like, well, we have a beer in the tank right now that I don't know how to spell.
Yeah.
Which I still don't. I spelled it wrong today when I was writing something, an email to someone, and there's like, what's that squiggly line about? I'm like, oh, the E is in the wrong place. There's an O, an I, and an E all next to each other, and I don't know which way. Anyway, we're making a beer called Tree Tipper now.
There you
which,
go.
I did this thing called the Honey Beer Summit, in Austin a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And part of it, they teach you about honey. And they had a piece of information that honey breaks down certain terpenes into different terpenes. So some of those ones that make like resinous astringent flavors in
Honey itself breaks
has
it down?
enzymes in it. Yeah.
Huh.
And so
it's like terpenes in your terpenes.
yeah, you're breaking them down like it's biotransformation, which we can talk
I've
about
heard
that.
that's not true.
It's
but-
not. Yeah, well, talk to Lance. So it breaks down some of the resinous, kind of more astringent characteristics into like softer, like lavender and like citrus things. So
Cool.
had steeped some spruce tips in honey for about a week before adding them to the beer to get that kick started. So just added the spruce tips yesterday.
Now, are spruce tips commercially available? Something I've literally thought about in the past. Or do you have to just like go to a spruce tree and
we did
pick the
not
tips
walk
off
to a
of
spruce
them?
tree. I foraged them from my my MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
No, we got them from the Pacific Northwest. They freeze them when they're in season and vacuum seal them, and we bought some from them.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you just tried to have as large a carbon footprint as possible. So we do have spruce
we
trees,
burned them,
but
yeah.
I will have them put in plastic
Well, these
and
were-
then shipped.
They were harvested in Illinois, shipped to the Pacific Northwest, processed.
Where a hipster
there.
said, yes, that's a spruce tip, and then flew it back.
Right, yeah,
Okay, good. Well,
exactly.
well done.
Thank you. Very proud.
Yeah. I thank you. The earth thanks you.
Thanks.
When's that come out?
Thank you on behalf of the earth.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, probably 6 weeks or so. It's got at least another week or two at least 2 to 3 weeks in the fermenter and bright tanks, and then probably a month for bottle conditioning.
What beer do you have lined up after that?
After that, probably Method Dust, which is
What's that beer?
I don't know. A little teaser for you. I'll probably be on a couple more times before
Yeah.
that's actually it.
Okay, Method
It
Dust.
involves Citra.
Okay. All right. I like
juicy.
it. I like it. It's I've been
I hear.
delighted.
I think it's going to disappoint a lot of people when they figure out
Yeah.
that it's a saison.
Method Dust. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
My next guest is Mr. John Holl,
Hello, sir.
author and podcaster extraordinaire, award-winning author and podcaster, if you count honorable mentions, which I do
Sure.
not. But
Harsh.
having won first place, the only podcast I've ever been on won first place, and that's I don't know. When it comes to me, if I ever get an honorable mention, I'll let you know.
Do you consider this as just being on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. You're just on this one.
So
Yeah.
you're host and guest. That's
No,
yeah.
how are you though? Last time I saw you, we were at was it Bierstadt in Denver for during CBC.
That's right.
And
We were.
you and I and Josh Noel and another writer colleague of the two of yours who I didn't know, but yeah, and then you were just there recently again. I was just looking at your your social media the other day and saw that you were back there.
I was out there for GABF this year. So yeah, it was every time, these days there's this article that ran, I think, in the Wall Street Journal a couple months ago of how Instagram is basically just allowing people to repeat like the same picture over and over again. Like everybody goes to Paris and takes the same picture of the Eiffel Tower. So Instagram's sort of becoming boring with that. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how I feel when brewers and people who cover the beer industry or who are in the beer industry go to Denver. Everybody takes a picture of the slow pour pills.
Yes.
It's just like you're guaranteed to, during CBC week, if you follow a lot of brewers, to just continuously see slow pour pills after slow pour pills over and over and over again. And I don't have a problem with it because I think it's a delightful beer. But there are apparently other breweries in Denver. I had no idea, but there are. So
yeah, I mean,
I'll have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't know. I'm with you there. And I mean, pictures of beers. For as much as I post to Instagram for business and stuff, just a picture of a glass of beer, rare. I don't know. I don't think we do it very often. It just doesn't seem like exciting content to me.
And I do this now. I mean, I post pictures of beers that I think are sort of interesting and try to offer tasting notes to it. I think the ones that are a lot of fun are the poorly lit ones of like dirty glassware in somebody's kitchen where there's obviously no framing or anything else like that. Yeah. And then people are surprised. It's like, I only got like 2 likes and one of them's from my grandma. And it's like, well there's a reason for that because it's a terrible picture of beer. But, as long as people like beer and they, want to take a picture of it, I think that's a cool thing for the brewers. So
cool. I want to show you my favorite picture. But we've got this new camera now, and I don't know how I can do it. Let me see. This is going to make for great podcasting. You know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to do it.
Let's do it live. Let's just, no tech rehearsal. Let's just straight up,
Yeah.
I can see you playing on your phone.
Get a description. This is incredible.
This is only like, what, the 3rd episode of this show?
This is the best. Yeah. Look at that picture. That's an amazing. It's a collage of the exact same picture 25 times.
Of a beer and a pier and the ocean. It looks like a lovely beer.
Yeah, it's the Oxbow Pils Fest.
Yeah, Pils and Love.
Yeah, and everybody did the exact same picture of.
But see, that's the thing that I was talking about with that journal article of just like there's no originality left on Instagram.
Right.
Gesundheit.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But that's.
It's exactly
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
the
uncanny.
Same picture over and over and over and over and over again. It's a hand extended with a Pilsner in it, and in the background, the Atlantic Ocean.
It's like a funny, like beer nerd version of those like trope pictures of like some beautiful girl leading you somewhere on vacation, except it's a glass of Pilsner. That's the life we lead.
Did you have any? How often do you get to Denver? I mean,
I used to go a little bit more. These days, I go out for CBC when it's there. I go out for GABF, and I try to get out every January or so when I'm on my way to the Big Beers, Belgians, and Barley Wines Festival, which is in Breckenridge, which is a lot of bees. Every January, so I'll spend some time there, and I think Denver and Colorado, like in general, is just cool for a lot of reasons. I live in Jersey, I get to travel around a lot to drink good beer, but given the legalization of marijuana, I think it's sort of a fun thing to be seeing what that industry is doing there. Mm-hmm. And then, certainly as old as the beer culture is in Colorado, mm-hmm. There's something new opening up all the time. In Denver, I was joking that like there's other breweries in Denver, but like, Bierstadt I think is great. Like it's a soul lager brewery. There's another one called Liberati, which is doing some really cool things with wine grapes. And beer. And mm-hmm. so like there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the beer that's being made. It's not just, hazy IPA factory after hazy IPA factory, because they've been mixing it up for so long. So I think it's cool to get out there, for any sort of beer enthusiast or even pro brewer to go out just to sort of get inspired.
Yeah, I mean there's certainly a ton of breweries. I mean it's a big state, but the breweries are they're concentrated into kind of little pockets and stuff like that, so you can really kind of get around and see a lot of them. That's cool. So you go out every year then for GABF? No, maybe yes. I don't know. Is he frozen? Uh-oh. I'll blame Cole.
Wait,
We'll all blame Cole. Nah, we'll just move on to my next guest.
He's moving.
I don't know. He's moving slowly, but we'll see. In the meantime, while this is getting figured out, I'll introduce my final guest, Mr. Max Peltier of the Beer Temple. How are you?
Doing well. You should know that. You've seen me all day.
That's true. Well, I already kind of blew it, but first-time guests are supposed to introduce themselves. So, Max, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Max Peltier. I'm told I do the buying at Beer Temple. Doing that for a couple of years now.
You're told you do it, or you're told to do it?
Yeah, column A, column B.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a job.
Buy the beer. That's what you do.
You got it, boss.
There you go. Buy the beer. That's what you do.
Yeah. But yeah.
Is this what your meetings are like?
Basically.
Max, have you bought beer? Because that's what you do.
It's not about quality. It's about quantity, Just, as much Miller High Life.
You're a real stack it high, let it fly kind of operation.
Nah, he's more of a if it's cold it's sold guy. I'm more of a stack it high, let it fly guy. So sometimes
it's a good mix.
There's a lot of friction, and sometimes it works well together.
I mean, you do carry a lot of this White Claw products, if I don't.
We stack it high, and we keep it cold.
Well, we carry one. It's a variety pack, so 4 or 1, how you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. I mean, I've been buying beer there for a few years now, and I've been in the industry for a while before that, and as per anybody here, have some bad opinions on things.
Oh no.
Are they hot opinions though?
Oh, probably.
Takes?
Yeah.
Gotta cool them down.
The
a little
takes
bit,
are piping hot here.
Very good.
Well, very cool. Why don't we then just quickly go into beers that we've had lately, or I'm looking forward to having, that we are excited to try, and take it. Yeah, you want to start? You raised your eyebrows, Mike, like you were in anticipation of this.
I went to the Beer Temple Sunday and Monday to drink Vermontois
Yeah.
from Blaugy and Hill Farmstead.
I had one of those today.
It was delicious.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. And then you also had Zinnebeer on. Had one of those.
Yeah.
A couple of those.
De La Seine. Nice
De
to
La
have
Seine.
Shelton back in the market.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And been loving those. I love those.
Max was just out at Shelton Fest, which was at the same time. Now, what does this tell you? Same weekend, GABF and Shelton Fest, and nobody at the Beer Temple brought up the idea of going to GABF, but several people, almost everybody, brought up the concept of going to Shelton Fest.
It says that you guys are all very attuned to what the average craft beer consumer is into.
Exactly.
Where can I get fresh Terrace Bulba?
Hey,
Yeah, right?
You could get it at the Beer Temple, but
No, you can't.
How was the Jameson tent at the Shelton Brothers Festival?
Oh man. I wish that was there. There'd be a breakup from all those terrible saisons and sours I just had to drink.
gross.
Yeah, I know. Who would want to do that? But there's a Jameson tent at GABF.
Was there?
I'm sorry, it's a pavilion, not a tent.
Ah. So they're not just working with Rev then. They're trying to be like the...
Oh, they do a lot of cask mix
Whoa,
things.
so-
I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
John
cut,
would know better than I would, but
they cut off all the your Golden Road and all of those from having their big setups, but then they have Jameson there. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
I guess.
Yeah, they were just too corporate for Diageo.
Exactly.
Whoever Jameson is these days.
so Jameson's now the largest craft brewer in America. I just heard,
Interesting.
Oh.
according to the
They only do still beer,
Brewers
though.
Association. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really is a bummer, but I should let people know we had a really funny bit that we were going to use against John, where we were gonna kind of pick recipes out of his cookbook from 2013 and see if he could identify which they were, what recipes they were from, which brewery. But we were idiots. And we had the mic. Cole's saying, he's nodding his head yes, although he's the one who set this whole thing up. So I don't take blame. That's what I do is not take blame.
Yeah, you're the leader. You don't take blame.
Yeah, I don't take blame. So anyway, so he heard everything we were saying. We couldn't hear him.
We've been playing this for weeks.
We've been playing
Months.
this for at least months, and so he's just listening to
need
us.
to get out more.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Max was just at Shelton Fest.
Yeah. So what beers do you have at Shelton Fest, Max?
Oh, a lot.
Well, that you liked and thought were.
There were actually quite a few that I really enjoyed. Some of the standouts though, Durank had a really nice goose. It was 1 year of their own lambic, 2 years was from Girardin, and then 3 years was of Boone. It was fantastic.
What was it called?
Sounds gross.
Miracal.
Is it getting? Are we getting any?
Not yet. It's coming to the States.
Okay.
I will be buying that so that you don't fire me.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fantastic beer.
Wow, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, that one definitely stood out. I went back there a few times for that. And then Beechwood Blendery also, same thing, that had a really amazing goose there. It wasn't at the festival, but on the shelves there was some Oxbow Lupolo, which is we were talking about Pils and Love.
They're Italian Pils, quote unquote.
Italian-style Pilsner.
Mm-hmm.
So I drank some of those in a hotel room.
Sounds not depressing. Okay.
Don't worry, there's one other person there.
Some of the plastic glassware that's so covered.
Sitting in another corner of the hotel room facing the wall,
who's
drinking.
paid to be there.
Also
waiting.
No, but on the other, so go to another Pilsner. Blue Jacket had a gravity pour Pilsner that was absolutely incredible. We were, cued into that from Maddie Groves from.
See what you missed out on, John? Slow pour out. Gravity pour in.
Now, can you do both?
Can
we do a high
that's
note?
all I'm drinking these days.
Is gravity
When do we
pours?
get to zero gravity pours?
Yes.
Ooh.
Elon Musk, I think, is working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot at Shelton. I mean, to list them that I really enjoyed, it would take up too much time. But, I mean, there's
Enough to fill a
there's fun
fest,
stuff.
one would think, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of classics also, like getting, Terrace Bulba that we mentioned earlier.
The best.
Getting that fresh is amazing. I mean, you can't really complain about stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and it's nice to get a chance to dig kind of deep into the little cracks of that very big portfolio that they have.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Jordanian brewery that you were saying was really good.
I probably butchered their name because I'm not looking at it right now, but it was like Caracal or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
And they had a stout that was a collaboration with Friedgeist that was incredible. Like, classic, heavy roast, super bitter, clocking it like 9 or 10%. And it was exactly what I needed in that sea of saisons and sours and
They also had beers from Instagram. I wasn't there. That had salt from the Dead Sea. In it.
Yeah,
Is that right?
they had one of those, a Goza of that that we're going to get in packaged, I believe. But it was actually really solid. I liked it. It was kind of gimmicky that it was from the Dead Sea, but it's all salt. But
The Jordanian breweries are already gimmicky breweries. Market's tough over there.
Oh man, that's my cousin, by the way. So that's just kind of mean. But
I mean, I guess they did have a pastry stout and then a kettle
We're
sour.
giving them love.
No, I think it's fantastic though. The beer was good. I mean,
Good.
regardless of I'm not one to say whatever, but it was a great beer.
Nice.
Wherever they got the salt from. Maybe
John?
that affected, maybe it didn't.
Anything that you had out at GABF that stood out?
Slow pour pills.
aside from the slow pour pills, no.
Oh, there you are. So
But right now I'm drinking a Pilsner lager beer that is, according to the can, brewed from the best quality malts, grains, and choicest hops. And they say it's absolutely pure. In fact, they say that it's double X pure, as it were. This is a Utica Club from New York, and I think everybody should be trying to find some of these crispy boys to slam down.
They're good. It's good.
Sure, it's fine. It is what it is.
Here's what I had.
There's a lot of. The thing about GABF, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about the Shelton Brothers Festival, because I was talking to Joel Shelton a couple months ago when they announced that it was during GABF week, and I said, was this on purpose, or what? And he sort of played it off like they didn't know that GABF was happening that weekend. And I think it makes sense because it's two very different demographics that those festivals are trying to hit. And I don't think that anybody who wound up going to Shelton Brothers necessarily minded having to miss GABF this year.
Yeah.
The thing that sort of strikes me at GABF, and it has for the last couple of years, is as it's grown, there's a lot of mediocre beer on the floor. There is a lot of breweries that I encourage them to be open, and I'm happy that they're serving their local community. But when it comes to playing on a huge national stage, they're just not ready for prime time a lot of the time. And they're spending a lot of money to go to this. And I think maybe in their minds they're thinking like, oh, if we're pouring at GABF, like we'll get a boost from this. But I don't often see that's the case, especially when I talk to folks 5-6 months afterwards and say, hey, was this worth it for you? So, when you have something like Shelton Brothers and you actually have some interesting beers and world-class brewers from both the U.S. and around the world, I don't know. There's something to be said for a smaller, more curated list.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if this was the first of other festivals trying to challenge GABF going forward.
Interesting. Now, as someone who's never been to GABF, do you think it's something I have to do? I have to experience, John?
I think that if you are a part of the beer industry and you work with a lot of brewers and you're interested in seeing what consumers are looking for, both good, bad, and otherwise, I think GABF is definitely one of those bucket list places to go and check out. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you can get past all of the glass dropping, screaming, 1 ounce pour, standing in line with a bunch of dudes who fart a lot, I think that there's a lot of fun to be had at these things.
Yeah, I'm sure. And just the size of it is kind of probably cool to see, just the sheer magnitude of it.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, but first... Yeah, sorry? What's that?
60,000 people this year.
Oh, my gosh.
Whoa.
That's crazy. Well, I will say that the beer I liked, I might have mentioned it last week, was the Anderson Valley Pumpkin Beer. I tried all these pumpkin beers that are available in Chicago. That one stood out, and it was October 1st, and we tried to bring it in, and it has not been available for a month. And no more is coming in. And then we went around and Max called all the major distributors, and there's 20 cases of one type of beer, one pumpkin beer at one distributor. That is it in the city of Chicago at the major distributors as of October 7th. So
at least according to my reps. So they might be lying, but we'll see.
So well done.
So Max is now
well
calling
done,
out
Chicago
his sales
distributors.
reps.
Hey, I got to pass the buck, right?
I mean, that seems like an epic fail, and I understand why. We have to put in they want us to tell them in April we have to put in our orders and so on and so forth. But
how much pumpkin beer would you guys sell if you were fully stocked on pumpkin beer? Is it like still a huge thing, or is it just that?
Not massive, but it's a consistent sale for like about a month and a half.
You'd probably sell 30 cases of pumpkin beer.
I think something like that.
That's a lot of pumpkin beer.
I mean, that's a decent amount,
I mean,
right?
you get like 6, 7, 8 different SKUs, and you sell a handful of each of them.
Yeah.
Over the course of a month and a half.
I mean,
well,
we'd sell more than
SKU.
none, which is what we're going to be selling.
Yeah, almost.
Just now make it a statement. We don't carry pumpkin beer.
Yeah, but I'm not a hater of pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
I seem to remember you had a Southern Tier pumpkin like every Thanksgiving up until 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I finally got tired of it and wanted to try other ones, but I always would have one. It was like a seasonal thing, and I don't hate it. I like them more than a lot of pastry stouts, to tell you the truth. A lot of the super sweet ones, anyway. Those are beers that I will taste, but I never really will say, I want to have one of those. But I will with the pumpkin beer if it's chilly and fall, and I don't know.
Did you
so
see
anyway,
that
that's
this
my
year
beer. Thanks a lot that I can't have any.
Did
Chicago.
You see this year at GABF they split pumpkin beer into pumpkin beer and pumpkin spiced
They've
beer?
had that for a couple years, I believe.
Yeah.
I know that it's been...
No, it was. I think what I was looking at said it was new this year that they're splitting these into
Maybe it
two
was
separate
just
categories.
the BA recognition that I was looking at, and they didn't switch it for GABF. But I seem to remember at least a couple of years where it's been listed separately.
There's multiple categories of pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
now.
Well, there were multiple categories for Imperial Red Ale also. So
And shocker, Point Whole Hog won the best pumpkin beer there is, which we used to say up and down to people who would come into the store. That we stopped doing that recently, a couple of years ago, because the distributor stopped bringing it in. Still carries Point, just decided to not bring in the pumpkin beer anymore. Even if you want to pre-order it, they just don't do it.
Yeah.
It won a medal last year, won a medal this year. They just don't care.
no biggie.
So that's cool. It's awesome. Well done, Lakeshore. I'll just say it. I mean, well done with that. And thank you. Anyway, I think we're ready to go.
With that seething hot take.
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
Beer Temple is making great friends with its distributors so far today.
Right.
We're going to try
I
to
don't
burn
think
down
they-
a few more ones.
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. Having done this show 190 times now,
No, this is the third one.
they
We established this.
Yeah, they do not care. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to introduce our final guest when we come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am
That's the last case.
the host, Chris Quinn. Is it? Okay, good. Now everyone knows. I'm joined by Mike Schallau,
It's chunks.
Max Peltier. Yeah, it is very chunky. Whatever beer you poured
If
me
you
was
close your
chunky.
eyes.
And
we tried dialing it.
John Holl, and my last guest, Mr. Edmar Lumpin. How are you?
Hey, hi. Thanks for having me on the show, Chris.
Yeah, and in classic fashion, as you're introduced,
Yeah.
you're on your phone.
Well, you know, Chris, it's because I wanted to make sure I got the correct name of the brewery that I wanted to talk about.
Mars.
Yeah. That's
Hard to get a
no.
hold of.
Well, I am from Mars Community Brewing. And recently, a gentleman from New Zealand came out to the Mars Brewing. He emailed me and said, "Hey, Mars Brewing, I'm coming out from New Zealand, and I was told just to visit your brewery. If I bring some beers out there, would you want them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll trade you some beers." He came out. He was with some family and friends, and he left me a bunch of beers from New Zealand, including some from Garage Project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some Nelson, some other New Zealand hopped
They make a
juicy
cool Nelson
beers.
beer. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the new map is out for Battlefield 5. And the new map is like
Yeah.
basically a battle in the metro
Hop
system,
vines of
in the metro system of Berlin. So we're at the final stage of the
Who's
demise
we?
of fascism.
you and I.
Well, everyone in the world is playing in Berlin right now, taking down the Nazis. And while I was gaming, I forgot about these beers that were in my mini fridge by my computer. And I got to say, the New Zealand hop beers are pretty good. Good job, Garage Project. You got me through
Newsflash:
Berlin.
New Zealand hops are good.
Yeah, you
heard
really,
it here last.
You really hooked it
You
up.
heard about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Huh?
Galaxy,
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Nelson, or Galaxy, I guess is Australian,
It's
but
pretty cool.
Nelson.
Same
Yeah.
thing, right? They sound the same.
So I want to thank that
I think they
gentleman
consider
who
themselves
sent
the
me
same.
those beers. I'm sorry I forgot your name right now, but I'll remember it in a little bit as I use my phone.
All right.
So perfect gaming beers, Garage Project.
And now that's all you're here just to talk about Battlefield 5, and you're going to be leaving. Is that true?
Yeah, we're going to talk more
You're
about the
going
game
pro?
later, and I'll be out of here in about an hour. And then, yeah.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
you guys want to talk about the loadout first of the game? Is it buggy? Sure, it's a little buggy. The game's a little buggy and needs a little improvement. But, I think that over time, EA Games may fix the issues.
They're a young startup.
you know,
They're
you know,
getting
they're-
their stuff together.
They're pretty huge right now. And,
Oh, are
and
they?
it's been it's been waiting for a year for some exciting close quarters maps like these. So, yeah. But do you have any follow up questions about the new map, Chris?
I did. Oh, Max, did you?
Open up any good loot crates there? Any good quality skins?
Actually, you have to purchase the really hot skins. And
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't buy.
Don't wanna buy
I don't
into
buy.
EA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I earn my.
You run
I
around in
earn
a
my crates.
paper bag. He
I
just
earn.
walks
I
around
earn
in
my
a-
rare and epic weapons.
Sandwich sign. You just wear a sandwich sign and run around, eat at Joe's.
Pretty much, and that's got a good armor reduction.
That's good.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
So,
thanks for asking.
what would you do?
Important question.
What would you say, Ed, if I told you that one of America's most iconic craft breweries by Brewer Association definition.
Iconic? That's a Brewer
Historic.
Association?
Historic. No, craft.
Yeah, no,
craft.
okay.
One of the most historic craft brewers, the oldest craft brewery in America, was trying to get in on the pastry stout game. And I'm saying it to you because you work with the official pastry king.
Yeah. Well,
Crowned pastry king, Tim Lang.
Yeah. I got to say, Chris, that if anyone wants to get in the pastry game like we do at Mars, sure, go for it. Go for it, buddy.
Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on, okay? Because the Pastry King is one of the most unique brewers in the country, and his selection of ingredients and styles are unparalleled. If you remember correctly, the adjuncts that were spilled all over the floor of the beer temple were then scooped up and reused to create one of the hottest beers ever made in Chicago. And even challenged microphones, shoes, if you recall correctly.
Okay.
I thought the microphone was going to spill ingredients.
His shoes were ruined by this pastry stout. That's how intense ours was. But who is this brewery, Chris, and what are they making?
Talking about America's oldest craft brewery. Yuengling. Yuengling.
The largest craft brewery.
What are they making?
Largest, oldest. They're making a beer with an artisan, or I guess I'll call it
Chocolatier?
craft chocolatier.
Yeah.
Called Hershey's.
Hershey from France?
Probably that one.
Hershey's.
From
Chocolate
Pennsylvania.
bar.
Yeah.
So they're truly making an artificial
Wait,
adjunct.
No, if you
stout?
read the article, they never say they
a
use
chocolate
Hershey's
porter.
in the beer at all. They say
Yes,
it has the
that's true.
delicious flavor of Hershey's, but it doesn't say that it has any Hershey's
says
in it.
So what it is the chocolate porter, which checks in at 4.7 ABV, is a modified version of Yuengling's dark brewed porter.
Dark brewed.
Ooh, dark brewed.
with the taste of Hershey's
Wait a minute.
chocolate.
Dark brewed beer?
With
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Now,
That's almost as specific as cold brewed.
Yeah. Or
But this
flash
is their
brewed.
first ever.
Flash brewed.
This is their first ever collaboration.
Huh. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a testament to the hard work and the massive amount of collecting going out there. The collectors, it's almost like Beanie Babies, right? Mm-hmm. You collect Beanie Babies. You're the first in getting your Beanie Babies. You're collecting them. You're flipping them. You're flipping them. You're flipping them on eBay, making big money.
What were you doing in the 90s?
And then eventually Yuengling comes along and makes
he founded Mars.
I think what happens is that Yuengling comes around, collects all the Beanie Babies that are out there that aren't selling, puts them in a giant bag, and you could buy 50 Beanie Babies for like $5.
I am
And this
so
must be-
utterly lost.
I don't know
now.
what's going on.
I think this beer is similar to like the Beanie Baby bubble.
Oh,
And then if Yuengling's
it's
getting
like
into
a
it,
sign of the end
this
times.
is the end times for dark brewed beer, a.k.a. pastries.
Dark beer. This is the end time for all dark beer.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Hershey's partnering with Yuengling to make a craft pastry dark brew.
Those
Yeah.
4.7%.
Yeah.
It
pastry
is.
stouts.
I totally agree
Almost-
with
yeah.
John and Mike though, in that now several times in this press release it says, the quotes are something like, what is it? We spent nearly a year developing our Yuengling Hershey's chocolate porter and are excited for the world to indulge in the classic taste of Yuengling dark brewed porter blended with the unmistakable taste of Hershey's chocolate. But wait, that's the wrong quote.
Wait, Max
I have
actually
an
found
update.
a
Yeah.
secondary source.
So, according to the very trustworthy people at Forbes, they said that it's blended with Hershey's chocolate and caramel and dark roasted
Just say
malts.
caramel
Wait,
and dark roasted
and-
malts. So it's
and-
caramel and dark
yeah,
roasted malts.
And malts.
The way what's the comma situation looking like there?
There's no Oxford in there or anything.
Yeah,
no,
so it's
but
caramel and dark roasted
Beautiful.
malts.
Yeah.
But it does say Hershey's what?
Yeah, Hershey's chocolate.
It's
with
blended with
caramel and dark
Well,
chocolate.
who doesn't want a
Dark
Yuengling
roasted
kiss, huh? Who doesn't want to kiss a Yuengling beer straight on that bottle top? Just suck it down It's like peeling a piece of foil off the cap. And
Would you
just
pick one up
gobble
if you saw it? If you saw it, would you pick it up
Not
and
when
buy
I
it?
pick it up. I'd buy 10 cases of it. I would share it with everyone I know. I'd leave it out I would leave it out in the candy dishes
Stack it
during the
high.
holidays.
Stack it
Yeah.
high.
Stack
Let
them
'em
high.
fly.
Leave them sit in the candy dishes in my house. If you came by, you wanted like a dessert chocolate, you just grab a bottle of Yingling.
Talk about co-branding. Now that's what they
That's
should
actually
do.
what we're giving out at Halloween this year at the house.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
the
That's
kids
a
will love
perfect
It
gift.
is a kid's beer. It's only
Hey,
4.7% alcohol.
It's only 4.7%.
They should sell them wrapped up in silver foil
Now,
with a piece of paper coming
Here's
out
the thing.
top
With
of it.
these special releases, these huge collabs, it's all about the glassware. And Chris, I can see your computer screen right now.
Yes.
There is a very handsome Yingling
That is a nice looking
porter glass.
Dallas.
How much do you think people will be reselling these glasses for on the secondary market?
Well, based on the
60 cents.
yeah, no,
60 maybe 80 cents.
I looked
I'm
up a
saying.
Mega Man glass.
yeah,
Maybe
no.
80 cents. Who knows? Yeah.
And how long do you think the line's going to be at Yingling to get this beer?
Well, I just looked up a
Do you
glass.
think the line be
Hold
longer
on,
in
let's take
Pennsylvania
these
or
one at a
Florida?
time.
There's-
I got
Yeah.
so many questions.
Right. So glassware. First
Yeah.
of all, specialty glassware. I was just looking up some of the prices. The Answer had put out a bunch of specialty glassware. They had one for Mega Man, which was a stout. It was a pastry stout.
Yeah, sure.
So I think it's apples to apples there.
What makes the glass taste
That
better?
glass was going for how much
I
on
thought
the aftermarket?
I think it was like $1,500.
Yep, it was going for
like-
$1,500.
It was like a glass.
Not
like
a joke.
Glass and a couple
Not a
growlers for $1,500.
I'll repeat that one more time. Not a joke.
No, it is a joke, though. That's a joke.
I
Like in
these
the
guys who have
larger, more
$50
cosmic
to
sense.
drop glassware because like they obviously don't have dates to go on.
Oh, they
Like,
don't
it's
have a lot of
just, you know,
things to
what-
do.
So they're gonna spend their money. Yeah.
But that glass, I mean, I will
Rent
also
is
say
cheap in
this.
your mom's
Spend 10 minutes of the
legitimately,
year talking about a video game.
so 100 times over, this glassware that the Yingling one was made for the Yingling Hershey beer is a better looking glass too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, what do you have any thoughts one way or another about this beer, John?
I honestly, when was the last time you talked about Yingling before this? So I think that if anything, they're inserting themselves into a conversation of which they're not usually a part. So everybody's got to adapt or die these days, and Yingling certainly is showing no signs. I'm here in Jersey. This is Yingling country. When you go just across the border into Pennsylvania and you ask for a lager, you're going to get a Yingling. Like you don't even say the name there. Like that's how synonymous like that beer is with that style. But in order to grow, as their demographic ages out, I think they need to
Be hip.
be relevant. Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to. What was surprising to me was that was Hershey's going with Yingling as opposed to Trogs, which is literally across the street from the Hershey Park and Hershey factory and everything else like that. But I mean, as far as two iconic Pennsylvania brands coming together to do stuff, like I think it's kind of cool. There's a brewery that did. We have this like regional chain of convenience stores called Wawa out here, WAWA, and there's a brewery that did a collaboration with them for a coffee stout or a coffee porter or something
really?
like that. Like last, and everybody went nuts for it because like everybody loves Wawa and the way that like they there's just a certain cachet to it. So the people who dig Hershey's are now hearing about beer for the first time, maybe. And
kids will be introduced to drinking.
About beer.
Drinking.
Yeah.
My 2.5-year-old was really excited when the sample showed up in the mail. So it was cool.
Siri, what is beer?
Beer.
She knows that.
Yeah. My
You
kids.
guys sure you don't want to talk about video games for another 25 minutes?
Well, we were talking
Oh,
about
No.
You want to talk about
Mega
Don't
Man.
feed the monkey.
Mech Warrior 2 or something?
Don't feed the monkey.
I don't even know what
I'm
that
waiting for a
is.
Mech Warrior 2 glass.
And Destiny 2 is actually pretty hot too. If you're,
Okay.
DM me.
I'm the oldest.
I
Just
love staying
send
up
me your
late being on
deets.
your podcast, Chris. This is just worth my day every day.
Thank you. You don't have to say yes, but thank you for doing it. I appreciate it. Without you, I don't even know where this show would be right now.
Well, I want to comment on that collaboration thing.
I want to get an honest opinion,
Because,
Mr. Edmar.
I mean, obviously, it's a brilliant move, but on the part of Yingling to partner up with Hershey's,
I think it's
a
pretty smart, too.
globally famous brand to kind of extend awareness, just like you said, John, getting the awareness of this type of craft beer out to people who just know the Hershey's brand and the giant conglomerate. That,
right in time for the holidays too.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a good way to like offer that as like a treat for real and on the Halloween treat for adults, but as well as just giving it as a kind of like novelty souvenir present, probably to people who may or may not get access to Yuengling across the country. So if you're coming in or out of Pennsylvania or the Yuengling distribution territory, it'll be a great gift for the holidays.
And how many? I can just imagine this happening 1,000 times over, where some elderly aunt or grandmother gives a younger, her grandson or nephew who was like, "Oh, I heard he loves standing in long lines all day for these chocolate beers. I'll get him this."
Yeah, I can see that.
I think there'll be
thought
plenty
you were
of
going
that.
a different direction with that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
You guys are making fun of this now, but 5 years from now, when we're all celebrating Hershey Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, joke's on you. Ha ha ha.
I'm not making fun of it.
By the way, M&M Mars is a candy company that is in Hacktown, New Jersey, which is not far from where I live. So it sounds like there's another collaboration that should be in the works as far as candy companies go.
Can we do like a Mars and Mars with a Z collaboration?
I think that's what he was going for.
That's
Yeah,
M&Ms.
thanks.
I think so.
I
think I got to kill the joke real hard.
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
saying.
Right.
I don't want to disclose anything right now. I've got a bunch of NDAs slapped on me, but be assured that there's some major collaborations with the chocolatier happening in our future.
All right. Be assured. Major.
So if you guys were going to have a peanut M&M beer collaboration, what do you think is the ideal style for peanut M&Ms in a beer? Like it's obviously a Flanders Red,
A Vienna
but like
style.
what do you
Yeah, I
guys?
was going to say definitely a brown Berliner Weiss topped with whipped cream.
The traditional style of brown Berliner Weiss.
peanut chocolate. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, put some Woodruff on top of that.
Yeah,
just for-
coconut
Right.
flakes
Yeah.
outside the can.
No, that's
Yes,
not what it's
that's
going
nice.
to be.
Wax the can.
That's
dip it in
not what it's going to
coconut.
be.
However,
Yeah.
I don't want to drive this off the rails further, but you brought up the interesting thing about collaborations with
Wait,
with companies that are normally not collaborating. Usually, it's breweries making
Yeah.
beers together, right? And you see this. There's a lot of different collaborations going on now with bands. I believe I saw a beautiful meme with the Jonas Brothers on a Coors Light can label, or was
Yeah.
that just like some
Is
fake
that
stuff?
No, they're doing, I think, some ads. Yeah,
You've
one of
seen
them
a
is
lot
anyway.
A lot of bands or musicians will partner up and do beers with breweries.
Yep.
When I was at Pipeworks, we did that.
Sam
you
Adams
guys did.
Dogfish
On
did,
very
one
different
with the shoe
scales.
company recently. Yeah.
Who did? I'm sorry?
Dogfish had a subsidiary of Sam Adams, the
yeah.
Boston Beer Company.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Did
they've done a lot.
with
Flaming Lips
yeah,
and a few
but they
others.
did one with Merrill shoes recently.
Oh, really?
And
Oh, that's
those
right.
were-
That's right.
The shoes were actually based on the
Dogfish can art.
for
Mhm.
Sequence. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. We've been trying to
dig
work.
it.
We've been trying to work with Lululemon.
You do work
No,
with Lululemon.
no joke.
You're
To
the
do an awesome, very expensive hoodie, like a $500 yoga hoodie with a Mars.
I was going to say, you guys
If
are
you
getting
get
it
a hoodie,
all
you get
wrong.
enlightenment. Like-
If Mars and Mars did a collab, it would obviously be a candy bar
Yeah.
with crazy graphic design that sold for $30.
Yeah.
That's obviously what it would be.
Yep, at least.
Yeah.
And the rappers
Yeah,
would come.
but you'd
Thank
have
you,
to have
Chris.
a dopey yellow peanut on top of it. Though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Are you really
the
doing
bags will
some?
be pre-ripped.
Are you doing Mars yoga pants?
Oh man, it would be a dream to do Mars pajama pants. Oh God, Chris, getting me super excited. But I mean, other examples of
potential sponsors.
breweries doing collaborations
Outside of the beer
outside
industry.
of the beer industry. Anyone go?
There's been a lot of examples of that in the past, and I think that honestly, brewers, if they're listening, should be thinking about it as best they can. Right, craft right now is what 13% of the overall marketplace. Anywhere that you can get your beer product in front of people who aren't in that 13% and aren't thinking about it, like that's found money.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know of anything.
There's
is
the mis-
right. It's not just put your logo on everything.
Well, there's the
right?
Mr. Peanut IPA.
Oh, yeah.
That made headlines.
That's
I
a pretty
remember
hot
that.
collab.
They approached Pipeworks to do that. And
They approached
said
a lot
no.
of Chicago breweries.
Yeah, because they insisted on they had full control over the graphic design of the label and that it had to be an IPA.
Yeah.
And we were like, no and no.
I know
Well,
some
wasn't
other
that a
ones.
GABF contender this year?
Oh, anything can be a contender.
I know, I know. Well, I'm doing like even small brewers should do collaborations more often than they not. Like you could do a collaboration with a store or a restaurant or with a chef, and obviously Mars has done dozens of collaborations with James Beard award-winning chefs and different restaurants, different pastry chefs. For example, we're going to be doing a collaboration with Snake Accident or Mollusk, which is like a kind of like metal experimental music label that's located transnationally, and they're doing a Snake Accident stout.
What is that?
And
Level
we're
Eater.
working-
You do Level Eater?
We do the level.
That
We
kinda-
actually make a beer for a Dungeons and Dragons game. Right?
Yeah.
We
You
make it
do.
for real. I mean,
They
we
really
do it
do
and
every
we're
year.
finally doing our collaboration with the Dark Lord himself, Nick Floyd from Three Floyds, and making a beer for that event. So
That's cool.
So doing the collaborations in multiple ways is really important, I think, for any brewery nowadays if they want to A, try to differentiate themselves. B, if you make a beer with a restaurant group or a restaurant, you're guaranteed to sell them a lot of beer over time. It's like a very smart move in that sense too. It makes practical sense. And the people you do it with are really excited that they have a really bespoke or individualized beer that they could serve that no one else has. So they also differentiate themselves from other liquor stores, bottle shops, restaurants, and bars by having a beer made specifically for them. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. Especially since people listening to this podcast usually rip off all the ideas and implement them within weeks.
Yes.
It's a very influential podcast.
It is a very influential podcast. Remember when you said Goldschlager beer? That whole spate of gold flake glitter beer?
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember when I said breweries were going to start doing can releases and guest taps all over the place?
And then bam!
bam, it starts
Happening.
to happen.
Look at you trying to segue us into a new segment.
Right? No, it's time for a break.
Is it
I
really?
think, well, no, here's something I wanted to
I
ask
think it's an
about.
important segue.
All right. Well, do you? Okay.
You
let's
wanna
talk
set
about
this
it.
up, John?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
John,
right.
you set this up.
You set
Sure
it up.
don't.
Yeah, John.
Oh, where's your email? You sent us an email that said.
No, he doesn't know. That's not fair to have him
Just
segue.
Well, Chris,
that's,
what's on your mind, Chris? What's happening? What's wrong, buddy?
Um,
What's going on here?
what's going on?
The laws changed recently in Illinois.
Yeah.
A year
Which
ago.
allowed breweries and brew pubs and like tap rooms to serve other breweries' beers. Right?
Yeah.
And there was a outcry from the people in the industry, restaurateurs and bar owners like Michael from Hop Leaf, Pat Berger from Patty Longs, and Kaiser Tiger were predicted that what will stop a brewery from having exclusive releases with their friends' beers, right, at their place at the expense of working with their usual retail partners.
Yeah.
And people like me, the morons of the world, were like, that would never happen, Pat. No one would. Michael, who would ever diss a retailer like that?
We had the lobbyist. I mean, we had the director of the guild on,
Yeah.
and they said that it was for collaborations. Why wouldn't it be just for that?
Yeah. So basically what I think you're trying to say is that now there is an incident where
An incident.
a brewery is
real
now
bad.
bringing exclusively
Yeah.
released beverage to their own brewery.
Is it exclusive
to
or is it
release.
it's a launch party or something like that, right?
It is a launch party and a tap takeover. The beers are going to be at one other place that is related to, has a relationship.
Will
with,
it be?
Yeah.
Will it be available? Distributed throughout the city afterwards?
I've not been offered.
All your email said
any.
was that there is a brewery doing this thing. And
Yeah.
So what do you feel about? How do you feel about that, Chris?
I mean, how do I feel about it? I just feel like, honestly, this is what I said to somebody about it. Whatever. I think the industries, the tiers cannot, they don't have to be fully aligned in their...
What do you mean by tiers? I
Right.
will guarantee
Retail-
you
you're
there are
right.
people listening right now
You're right.
who haven't
Thank you.
turned off the radio who are really curious about what that means.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Optimistic. So the brewers and the retailers, the people who sell at the stores or bars, don't have to have 100% full alignment in their business goals. I don't think that needs to happen for them to be able to work well together. So it's not the fact that it's necessarily happening. It's the fact that this legislation was pushed, and when me personally and other people specifically asked what's going on with this legislation, and it was about, well, breweries want to be able to collaborate with other breweries and then put that other brewery's beer on their own draft, at their own tap rooms. It's not, we went out and did this cool collaboration, and now we can't pour the beer that we made with our friends. That sucks. And everyone would say, yeah, that does kind of suck. So the answer was to then say, well, yeah, so we should be able to sell any beer that we want on premise, off premise. And while we're at it, let's just do cider, and wine counts as cider. And
It does?
Well, I think
cider
exciting.
counts as wine.
Fermented fruit.
I think you're right there. Like,
I can't wait to serve wine in our tap room now.
Kind of disingenuous.
It
but
felt disingenuous.
It's also that Chicago and Illinois is behind most of the rest of the country, as far as I understand, as far as this issue goes.
Oh, but what I'm saying is, so that's why I wanted to make it clear that I think that we don't have to be fully aligned. This works this way. I should have said in other places.
Yeah.
But I do think it was just like an example of people saying, hey, we didn't hear about this. This was pushed through. And people saying, no, we were very open about it, and this is what it's for. And people saying, really? You're sure it's not really for this other reason? And people saying, no. And obviously,
I don't disagree with any of that.
it is, and it's just dishonest. That's what I'll say. It is dishonest. Because everybody who was putting it there, including people who were instrumental in putting it together, who told me after the fact, yeah, that's what it's for. But I wasn't going to go on the air and say, this person really said it's about this. But everyone knew it was about this. But they're just not honest. So now,
here's the thing.
I have to now second guess their intentions every time they say anything.
Maybe that's what their intentions were. And if I recall correctly, I said,
that's my opinion.
What brewery would want to serve someone else's
That's what
beer
you've always said,
in their tap room?
And you're not the only one who says that.
Like, what the heck is wrong with everyone? You can't sell your own beer? Unless you're doing a special collaboration. Unless you're hosting a festival. And let's think about when we had Half Acre, for example, through that huge out-of-town festival.
Far and away, yeah.
Far and away. You know how incredibly difficult and horrifying it was for them to get a few kegs of beer into Chicago to pour on a rooftop and in a park in Chicago?
Yeah.
It'll never happen again because our laws are so bizarre, so horrifying that it's impossible for them to invite 40 or 50 different friends or collaborators that they've made beer with in the past. So there's like a lot of pros and cons and yin and yang with this thing, and you have pointed out just one incident where a bad actor has.
I don't even going to say
Also,
it's
let's
not a
talk
bad
about-
actor. I'm not calling this brewery a bad actor. They're completely allowed to do what they're doing. Why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
all.
What's the?
Yeah.
Is
They're
there
not a bad actor.
what's
I don't want to
big
say the brewery is a
impact
bad
of it?
actor.
Right.
Is there like a huge impact? You're just more frustrated about like being told.
What happened was I knew that I would probably bring it up. So like, I'm probably going to talk about this. So I sent you and John an email.
Right.
That's really what it is.
you know what?
It
This
doesn't
is-
sound like
and
you at all to talk about this.
Right.
We've been trying to spice up this show for a while now. So calling people out, throwing them under the bus is really what it's all about. I mean,
Hey.
who they call me Mr. Call Out now. Mr.
Right.
Cancel Bar. Right?
Yeah.
That's why
That's
you
been
brought
going
me
around
here,
the brewery
Chris.
a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to go off the rails
Well,
again.
hopefully you got a lot of
I
people
was
angry
should
and
have
a lot
learned
of
about
other
the maps
people
of Berlin,
needlessly.
honestly. Like, this is just foreign to me.
Say what?
I was just here to talk about the maps of Berlin. What you guys are talking
Yeah,
about.
you
is
want?
just-
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe, for coming on and talking about that. I knew
John.
you were John, I'm so
Oh,
glad
well,
you.
what-
Honestly, actually, John, what is it like in New
What's your
York and New
screen name, by
Jersey?
the way?
And what's it like in New York and New Jersey as far as this is concerned? Breweries selling out of state or other like breweries beer.
And
Is that
in
normal?
Jersey right now, we can't even, the breweries can't even sell snacks or like have TVs on in the bar. So
Yeah,
like,
you guys have gone
this
the
whole-
other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this whole thing of like, wow, foreign beer in a brewery tap room, like that's like a pipe dream for 2030 for us right now. Like we're just trying to like get pretzels served across the bar, as it were. So yeah, we're pretty backwards here. New York State is much more friendly than Jersey is these days, and they're continuing to get better. And I see it both ways. Actually, like I'm surprised that brewers would want to sell somebody else's beer across the board, across their bar, because like you're going to run the risk of like somebody coming in the next week being like, "Hey, do you have that IPA?" And it's like, "Oh no, that was a one-off." And it's like, "Oh, well, I really like that more than your IPA," and now they're going to go find something else to do. And I think that's another part of the reality of this whole thing. But yeah, it's. I don't have a good answer.
No. How about? Can I just shift it a little bit? Well, shift it entirely, kind of. Unless there's something else you wanted to say, Max.
A small thing. Yeah, I think that like partially what it is they think that it might bring in more individuals that wouldn't normally go to the brewery. And that's the way that people would be introduced to the brewery initially. But still,
what we're talking about, I don't think that's the. I think it's the
but
opposite.
Still, like I don't think that's going to be like benefit. Like I don't think that'd be actually.
The only thing that this benefits is the brewery that's coming in from out of state saying we want to align with this local brewery. I don't think a local brewery here is going to get that much of a boost from putting on someone else's beer. It's probably a financial hit to have someone else's beer online. They get more people in, then obviously it balances out.
But I think they might see it as like a marketing sort of thing, and that's how they kind of write it off.
It's a collaboration. It's like in the same way Hershey's is collaborating with it.
Yeah.
But back to the beginning of this episode. Back to Hershey's.
Yeah.
Always Hershey's.
The first thing we talked about.
For sure.
But really, it also could just be simple, like, these are my friends.
Yeah.
I'm helping them out.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's it.
100%.
Yep.
And that's how a lot of things are done in the industry.
And like it could just be like they're doing one of those hotspot drops. They don't know other places really. They met them.
This is the only person they
met
through
a distributor though, and the distributor could have been like,
to go through a distributor.
"Hey, boutique beer shop that's 15 minutes away. Do you want some of this?"
But
which is not me. That shop is not me. Let me just say that was not me.
Sounds like it too.
It's not.
Are they only in this specific instance? They're only sending beer to this one event.
No, they're sending it to one other place as well.
Yeah.
Which is also not technically, but owned by the same people.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Gotcha.
I want to segue this. Yeah, so it's going to
Do you want to go straight back to Hershey's or video games?
No, I want to go
I'm ready to jump on it.
Here's also it's also interesting. They're only going to the Chicago suburbs. They're not coming to the city.
There's one spot. Well, yeah.
What are these two spots then? Let's just talk about it.
It's all right, fine. It's More Brewing and the Green Lady.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like just
and
people
what's
that
the
are,
brand of beer that we can go out and check out this event for? Is this, we don't want to really talk about that?
No, we can talk about it. It's
outer gauge.
Outer range.
Outer range.
I
Narrow
can't wait
gauge,
to go to this
range,
event. I can't wait to get some of their haze and their pastry.
And Moore's already doing a big release.
Let's go! Let's do
But
this!
they're just hot spotting,
I got my
dropping
lawn
like a small
chair.
amount of beer,
Yeah.
going to two places.
Yeah.
But this is the
basically.
first time in Chicago that there's been a can release to go, as well as a tap takeover like this specific for a different brewery
Hey,
at a tap
another
room
first for craft beer.
in Chicago, in Illinois.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, Chris, I don't want to freak you out, but my honorable mention winning podcast, we're broadcasting live from this release.
Oh,
Awesome.
sweet.
Incredible.
From the future?
Wait,
Wow.
cereal? Did
Are you
someone get
streaming?
murdered?
Are you streaming from this event
Yeah,
on your Instagram page?
Yeah,
He's gonna
I'm doing all the tweets and the streams.
he's
and
going to
the,
revitalize it because it no longer is
Yeah.
on, but he'll
I
bring
got
it back.
the TV truck with the big antenna. It's going to go up. It's going to be great.
So this is another example of co-branding with a culturally significant beer industry.
I do want to.
partner.
There is something legit I do want to say, and it is kind of a segue, which is you saying hot spotting beers coming in. Max was just telling me today, and I don't want to. Let's not
You hotspotting
name
right now?
names. No,
I'm always hotspot.
because I don't think anything is benefited by naming names here, because it's irrelevant, really. But he was saying, man, there's so many breweries that are hot spotting, and for those who may not know, hot spotting is, what would you say, Max? It's when there's like a one-time drop of beer.
Like one-time drop of beer. It could be packaged or keg or
So it's
otherwise.
not really a launch.
Yeah.
They're not sending representation in necessarily.
No. It's basically trying to come into a market and
just do a splash.
Yeah, do a splash.
Yeah.
Hope that their name or their juice itself actually sells.
And it's not necessarily to prime the pumps for a launch later. It's not really, necessarily for anything other than that kind of one-time
Not your typical
drop.
distribution deal. I mean,
Yeah.
last week's guest, Adam Vavrick, was actually one of those people who functions as a hotspot.
He wants to do that.
Can. Yeah,
he wants
so
to do that.
It's a distributor that allow another brewery to bring in a couple pallets or a pallet of beer and just drop it.
And already without Adam doing that, we're getting, or Max was talking about how you were kind of
Get
beleaguered by all these drops that are coming in.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't think that I'm out of the loop, and I don't think that most of my customers that come in are really out of the loop. I mean, they know what's cool, and the sheer quantity of different breweries that are coming to Chicago is just impossible to keep up with on both a knowledge standpoint and financially. And so there's a number of breweries that have actually come in recent times that they kind of come in purely based on name only and don't really move as well as one would think, who are big beer nerds. But
there's just a lot of them.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
so many of them
Yeah.
that it's like they get lost.
The newness of it has worn off.
Yeah,
The fact that
nothing-
a splash drop.
Nothing that's coming in is necessarily cool because it's new. It has to be something beyond that.
Well, this is also evidence of like how deep some of us get into this, like watching other breweries and other markets and who's trading what to who, like, and then realizing there are not that many people who care about that type of beer.
Not only that, but it's like when you have a market like Chicago, which I can only really speak to from my knowledge,
Which is a
it's
heavily
so
distributed.
saturated
Yeah.
that there's almost nothing that could come in Chicago that's actually substantially better than what is already
or
here.
unique. in some
Unless we talk about the newly
Hershey's.
created Hershey's.
Yeah.
dark brew.
Well,
I mean,
well,
to be fair,
obvious
there-
exceptions are made.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, we talk about it a lot, how saturated, how Chicago is the capital for having the most breweries per, in the metropolitan area, but as well as probably the most SKUs are available here.
That's true. That's
in
been true
our
for
market
years.
than anywhere else on earth. It is insane.
Well, at least
No,
in the
New York's
US.
probably
yeah.
crazy.
So going back to
Chicago used to be number one.
So going back to Shelton for a
unless they've been
second,
passed.
I actually talked to a number of breweries there that actually don't send stuff to Chicago.
Thank God.
Some of them I want, but they were talking about some markets that they hit heavily, where they do like a good amount of hot dropping, like Atlanta, where they feel there's not a lot of competition. Sorry if you're from Atlanta, but there's not a lot of competition there, so they do these hot drops there and do really, really well. Whereas they've avoided Chicago because of how busy it is there,
Sure.
because of how many SKUs
Yeah.
they have to
Do not
deal
come
with.
to Chicago.
It's a tough market, and as like a buyer, I see these things, and even if it's a case of 4-pack or four 16-ounce cans, 6 of them I gotta sell, I raise my eyebrows sometimes at these quote unquote cool breweries.
The other thing it does is it does disrupt the flow of the local brewery sales, at least into specialty shops that are getting these sort of splash drops, whatever you want to call them, hot drops.
Well, if you're saying that you can't even sell a case of it, how much is it really affecting the flow of a local
Yeah.
brewery?
Well, if
You
start
can't
getting
have it on
blood-
both ends. Like you can't say that like these hot drops are totally messing up the market and that you can't move a case of them. It has to be like
No,
Those
I
two
would say
things
that
are
it's heavily dependent on
almost
the
in
drop,
context.
and it's hard to gauge them sometimes.
Sure.
Like as an example, we had a brewery drop literally like on the shelf $40 bottles, and I can sell those things instantly. But at
You
the same
vaping
time,
over there, John?
No,
no,
Oh,
he's just
sorry, you guys
really
hear my yawn?
interested.
Sorry.
That's his I'm interested
Well,
side.
Yeah.
$40 bottles are pretty absurd, but the reality is, let's
it's-
just be honest here, okay? Anybody sending a beer, hot dropping a pallet, can't sell that beer in his own home market and needs to get rid of it. So whatever hot dropped pallets you're bringing into town here, it's either A, you're afraid to get a distribution deal because you don't want it in our market, B, you got to get rid of a random pallet in 7 different hop drop markets.
Ed, you just talked to me on Monday about potentially doing it.
I know that. I know that. But let's be honest.
Come on.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's what it is, Mike. Is it not, or isn't it?
No, it is. It's like
I don't know if I agree.
It's also
I don't know if I
that
agree
you
with that.
understand that there are other places in the country that recognize your brand and where you can sell that
Let's
beer.
hear from
It's not
John.
just fear that you can't sell.
Yeah, I want to hear a different.
John, what were you going to say?
No, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because I think that with the Instagram culture these days, right, there are certain beer traders and there's certain people who hear about certain brands that they just can't get their hands on. And, all they're seeing it is on their screen time and time and time again. So if you can do one of these hot drops into a city, we have a brewery in Jersey that just did one up in Boston.
Carton?
And, from my understanding is like they started to see Instagram traffic come their way from that particular region. And so by sending a pallet, it wasn't a pallet, but like by sending a certain amount of beer up to a couple of stores up there or one specific store up there, they're able to now, connect with those people who have only seen them digitally. And I maybe next time they're driving through Jersey, they'll stop and do it. And stop by and visit and maybe pick up some more cases, or maybe they can, become one of those breweries where, people do go and fill their trunk up with, things that will explode if you fill it up in August on your way back home. But either way, like, it's I think it's a way of connecting with people if you have some of these geo-targeted SEOs of like, okay, like there's people inexplicably, if you're a Chicago brewery, there's people inexplicably looking at us from Denver or looking at us from, Portland, Oregon or wherever. Like if you do one of these drops, maybe it satisfies their curiosity, if nothing else, and it furthers you down the road just a little bit more. I'm personally like, I'm not going to be lining up for any of this stuff, but like, the people who are, like, cool. Like, I'm not going to yuck somebody else's yum.
Yeah. John, you know what? Hearing you
You're
say
a little
that,
kid.
hearing you say that makes me change my mind a bit. I mean, if you were to actually do a hot drop in Chicago, you have to have a lot of gumption about that, right? You have to feel really strong, and you need a partner here who knows he'll sell it all anyways.
Right.
So,
Sure.
You know what? You changed my mind. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Listen, and when you want to do one here in Jersey, we can do it right on my front lawn.
Do you have any lawn chairs?
I'll go to Home Depot and get a couple.
You.
Sure.
He just wants to so he can play video games.
Well, I just want you to set those lawn chairs up outside your house, take a photograph of that, and make sure people think there's a big line for the beer that we're selling on your lawn.
There you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, but this is clearly the place to do it in Jersey for all of your hot drops. Is my front lawn here in Central Jersey.
I think this is a clear symptom of like a long tail kind of thing where there's so many breweries making a small amount of beer and like the reach is no longer just your local brewery because of social media. It's all over the country.
Global,
so like if you can send one pallet a year and you find the people that want to consume your beer in a different market, that's a great thing, at least for the brewery. That's all I can speak for.
Yeah, is it great?
What's not great about it?
So,
let's talk about it.
Here's a small thing I kind of mentioned earlier to Chris before the show about this is with the sheer number of breweries that kind of do this, it's more of a long-term, I could see an issue where you have the average consumer have zero knowledge at all of what they're picking
But they're not
up.
aiming for the average consumer. They're aiming for the person that follows them on Instagram or that is engaged with their brand for whatever reason.
That's not entirely true.
But that
has to be at least partially true. Of course,
Yeah.
not entirely true. But what? You're saying it's
Well,
not entirely true that they
tell
are
you-
aiming for a very specific consumer? That's absolutely what they're doing.
Well, that's what I guess
I think at the
all
moment, yeah.
craft breweries are doing to some extent.
And these even further. There's like further down the tail. There's less people, but then they're more spread out that are interested in a brand of this.
Can't you just argue that wholesalers like 12% of Shelton Brothers are the original hot droppers?
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
Shelton Brothers their whole business model is about sprinkling
So hold
stuff
on,
globally.
Ed. So there are now distributors or importers. There's one called Off Trail, I believe is what it's called, who is starting up. I believe out of Minnesota, although I could be wrong. And their model is to take breweries and essentially coordinate the hot dropping. So they have relationships with distributors all over the country, and they say, you give us the beer, and we will systematically go around the country and drop.
And you may
That's what
need
they've
that.
always been.
You might need that.
And do you think that's been bad for artisanal European breweries? If you're saying it's not good to have this happening for American breweries in America, are you saying that Shelton Brothers and their motto was bad for artisanal European breweries?
That's not entirely what Shelton was, though.
Yeah.
What else? What else was it?
American
Hold on.
breweries
They
crushed the Europeans.
I don't know what you're talking
There
about.
was stuff in so I think we're used to Shelton being in little boutique distributors, but when it was in larger distributors, when it was at Windy City, when it was at River North, they carried inventory.
Yeah.
But that was that's an entirely different beer market. They haven't been
Why
in a
don't
major
you-
distributor in
Why
Chicago
don't you guys
in
back
5,
up and
7
identify
years.
all these companies first? So if anyone doesn't know who the heck you're talking about they have a little bit of history.
A major craft house, and then a major Bud House. Shelton was with both of those distributors, and those distributors ran it more like a craft portfolio.
Sure, but that's because they had to run it that way. There are now more independent distributors, and basically they're people behaving as Shelton Brothers behaved. And you were making an argument earlier that it's not going to be good. It's not necessarily all good for the
for
small
different
breweries.
reasons. For different reasons.
I think
What
the
are
market's,
those
I think the
reasons?
market's changed. I don't want to speak
Absolutely,
for
that's
Chris,
why it's
but
happening
I
this way
think
now.
part of the issue is just the sheer quantity of saturation. Whereas before, when Shelton was doing it, they were kind of
Scarcity.
pretty much they were pretty much the only
Scarcity
one doing
marketers.
it, and so it didn't clog up the shelves a bit extreme, but like whereas now you have a lot of them trying to do it, and it just ends up being, at least in Chicago, such a saturation level where it's hard to parse the noise.
I mean, do you think that's
just a general problem with beer and distribution in Chicago?
I mean,
29
Finch Beer here in Chicago essentially does that model. Is that good for them? I guess, kind of.
Finch does hot spotting, is what you're saying?
That's kind of what their model's based on.
But that's
I
a
don't know.
different
I
thing
think
than like the.
they have real distribution relationships in different states where they're sending beer regularly. It's not just a
Oh,
one-time
okay.
thing. But then again, I don't even see their beer in Chicago, so I have no idea where the beer's at.
If what you're saying is that a brewery is only existing because they are doing this and that they can't sell beer in their home market, that's not great for them.
That's not entirely
But-
what I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying is if you're dropping your beer and there's so many drops. So this is all in the world that Max and I were talking about, where you have this glut where Max just was kind of saying in this exasperated way. He wasn't saying it to bring up a point. He's saying, I'm getting so many of these. I'm starting to get fatigued by all these people saying, I want these hot drops. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? We were talking to somebody else, and they were saying, oh, yeah, they're all over the place. It's going to get worse. We get hit up all the time to do this sort of thing.
I got an idea
And he
for
said,
you.
and it's only going to get worse. So hold on. My point is how it could be bad is if you're doing these splash drops in order to get some excitement, get some quick pull through, so then, and it just gets a glut, then what happens is all the stores, and that is kind of the first line there, are like, ugh, I don't want to have anything to do with it. If you do want to come in and expand into a market, it could make it more difficult. That's how it could maybe not be good.
And definitely-
I'm not saying it's
yeah.
bad. I'm saying that's how it
that's a good
maybe
point.
could not be
I got
good.
it.
And also, we're talking about the stores that are being affected by this are not in the majority. It is a small minority that's being hit up by this. It is the boutique stores. But it's going to if the boutique stores cannot handle this, then it's going to kind of overflow to other stores you got to get movement through this
Distributors
product.
got to drop it somewhere.
Yeah, and not to say it's going to be, these hot drops are going to end up in Jewel tomorrow, but they're going to end up in stores that aren't going to have the movement to say or the knowledge to push through it.
Sure. Well,
And that's kind of where it'll regulate itself, I'm sure, but
Right.
it's kind of in a weird spot.
that's more of a more desperate thing, I would imagine, than what I was thinking of is
Yeah.
breweries are we know that people here are following our Instagram, so we're going to drop a pallet
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
If it's if you drop a pallet somewhere and there's no demand for your beer, I don't think that's a
I
good
think
idea.
Half Acre has done some drops in California, and I think they were very calculated,
Sure.
very well thought through, and I think they went over very well.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily what Max was referring to.
No,
I don't want to speak for you, but
I mean,
but I will.
I don't know how Half Acre handled their drops exactly, but many of these breweries are like, hey, this came in yesterday. Do you want to carry it? And I'm like, never heard of that brewery before. Let me try to insert. Let me try to search for it.
That's probably not a good sign for that brewery then.
Right,
In that
and
case.
that's the thing. Like, if you're one of the breweries that's trying to do this, know where you're sending it. Like, if you're just trying to get a trip to Chicago out of this that you can write off your taxes, like that's nonsense. And like, don't waste your time on something like that. But like, if I don't know, the Upper Peninsula likes your beer inexplicably on Instagram, well then, go to the UP for a little bit.
That's what I thought of as hot spotting. What I think you're describing is something I would call scorched earth policy, where you just send it to wherever someone will take it, and then just like whatever, man, we'll go to Chattanooga next.
So my kind of concern with, how it's happening in Chicago is a bit more. It feels like there's no lead up to the drop.
Like, you get one
there's no
offer
planning, so
a
we gotta
week,
get rid
more
of
than
this
one a week.
I would say it's getting to almost like a new brewery almost every week. That's out of state. That's a one-time drop.
With no
that's
real
ridiculous.
following.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying. That's what we're
that
talking
you've
about,
never
guys,
heard of.
just so you guys.
Not necessarily. I don't know.
and that's
I've
also,
heard of some
like-
of them, but it's like
What's up, John?
I was going to say that also goes back to the point that I was making before about the GABF of like, yeah, there's a lot of breweries out there these days, and there's also a lot of mediocre beer. Like, just because you have a palate or just because like you think you want to do a hot drop doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a good idea or going to be the next big break for your brewery. Like, if you're just trying to do it to, create demand where there is none, you're not going to create any demand.
I heard you say that in the earlier part of the broadcast, and I thought that was an interesting comment. It was more important to be at Shelton Brothers than to be at the GABF that weekend. Or someone was mentioning not more important, but
Straight from John Hall's mouth.
Yeah.
It's more important to
Well,
be.
I wouldn't say more
I wrote down
important,
the
but
quote. I modified it.
Often quoted, often wrong.
let me re-quote you again. That it was probably more interesting to be at Shelton Brothers, who had hand selected and curated some of the best beers on earth, as opposed to a giant pile of thousands of beers being judged for specific
Maybe
For their
50%
juiciness.
accurate to what he said.
Yeah, that's
You gotta-
that's like two Pinocchios right there.
Well, then I'm going to ask you straight out: where would you rather be on that weekend?
Hold on, I don't want to go quite there yet, but
Help with my
right. So what I will say is another person I was talking to mentioned how these people who are reaching out to their brewery are like very kind of salesy, where they're saying, "Listen, we'll take care of all the logistics. We'll come up, just wrap up a pallet, put all the stuff, and it's sold. You don't have to worry about it anymore." And that's how they're selling it. They're not selling it as, "Listen,
You mean the
we'll
distributor, Hot Dropper himself?
the person who comes in, and they're not even a distributor sometimes. It's a third party who will find you distributors.
Yeah.
And they're not even saying, "Listen, we'll go through all your SEO. We'll go look and see where the best spots are for you." It's, nope, there are thirsty markets, or there are markets that we will sell it to.
I'll confirm that is happening.
That's the
sure.
widgetization.
And
of-
it's happening, and from what I'm led to believe that I think the phrase was, "You ain't seen nothing yet."
Yeah.
I think is what we were.
Oof.
Yeah. So
I get
that's what we were
emails every
told.
week.
Yeah.
Every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the person I talk to does, you do as well. That's probably
A bad
that's a
sign.
sample size.
yeah,
That's-
Are you ready, Mike? For
two
this?
is a sample
Yeah.
size.
You ready now, Mike? You gonna get a bunch
Yeah,
of
right.
But I'll be happy to say that
Iswas is now exclusively hot dropping
the north side.
3 bottles. Yeah,
It's Elgin.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
Now imagine that then. So
Both
what does that
barrels,
mean?
like,
I mean, think about this, John. This could be good for local, well-established brands who are doing the distribution game, or it could be bad for distribution. It could be that the people in the know where these kind of drops are being targeted to, like the hobbyists or the people who are really into it, the enthusiasts, I'll say, can no longer trust what's on the shelf to be quality because it's just a glut of old stuff or new stuff or who knows anymore. Not worth it. I'm just going to go to the tried and true brands that I trust, because I don't trust the stuff that's new. I used to always look for new. I can't trust new anymore. That could happen. Or it could just be like, I'm just going to go right to the source and go to the breweries and buy it directly from them, and that's what I trust. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It could go both.
It could go that way,
or both ways,
or stores that curate their stuff.
I think it's both ways.
Yeah. So I mean, it won't
I think the
last
people
forever.
who have been burned too many times before will just go to the brewery, ask for a sample, and if they like it, they might walk out with a 4-pack. If they really like it, maybe they'll do like the whole "here's my trunk filled with cases."
Right.
But I also think that like these days, it's harder and harder, even when I go into a store, to plunk down $20 for a 6-pack or a 4-pack or like whatever from a brewery that I've never heard of, because I've been burned too many times before, and it's like I don't know their packaging system. I don't know if this is going to be re-fermented in the can and like ready to explode on the way home, or if this is going to be some garbage Citra Mosaic monstrosity, or what. So yeah, that 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Kellerweiss that I see, like I know that's going to be great, and I'm just going to buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally for my buying, I mean, not for the store itself, but for my own consumption, I've kind of way more defaulted back to just staples as opposed to trying new stuff. Just because I'll take a guaranteed A rather than gambling on maybe this is an A+.
Yeah, I mean, and the other part of it too is I think that as beer drinkers become a little bit more evolved, as it were, and we get past a certain point in our drinking careers, we might want to have 3 of the same beer in one night, as opposed to like, our younger days where it's like, well, I'm going to go from this IPA to this IPA, and I'm going to try to earn as many badges on Untapped as I can. There's a simple pleasure about buying a 4-pack or a 6-pack and just having one beer all night long, the same beer all night long.
You're always going to have like
at
those,
home.
Yeah, you're always going to have those new consumers though that are always want to try the new as it goes on.
Yeah.
So it's just a balancing act. So,
hey, John, I'll see you tonight. I'll be on the server tonight at about 11:30, and
well, you'll see him on his front lawn.
Oh well, no, I mean we'll be gaming tonight. I'll see you on. You could just
I'll see you.
Just join my squad. Join my squad, okay?
Follow him on Twitch.
So we're gonna take a break. This is probably a good time. Ed's got to go play video games. You guys think we're joking? He is going to do that. We'll take a short break, Cole. Let's just take like 5 minutes or so music break so we can do a reset, and then we'll come back after that with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my guests, Mike Schallau, Max Peltier, and John Holl. Ed is in Berlin at this point. So.
Shooting Nazis.
Just riding the subways in Berlin.
Yep.
Right. Sure.
So,
the places beer will take you.
Yeah. So I will say. So I was asking what we only have about 15 minutes left or so, but I asked what we should do, and Mike suggested we read a letter. I had a handwritten letter. The missing letter was found. So whoever wrote the handwritten letter, it was found, but Jamie is too sick to bring the letter down. But it's still safest to just send any and all handwritten letters just directly to the Beer Temple. I've given up on CoPro. Sorry, guys. I love you. You're not good at not losing letters. You've done it several times.
We've thrown out very little mail
Yes.
at Beer Temple.
Yes.
We stack it high,
Yeah.
very high. on
Just
Chris's
let
desk.
that
Yes.
fly.
And let it collect dust.
What kind of dust?
Huh? Yeah, dust.
Methode.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is. Now with Citra. So
What's that?
I'm not sure. It's like it's a tropical fruit, I think.
That sounds right. Great. I think I saw that at the Jewel.
Yeah.
So if you want to send us a letter, send it to the Beer Temple, 3173 North Elston Avenue, Elston. That's Chicago, Illinois, 60618. Send it to my attention or Max's attention or Beer Temple or Dusty. You can send it to Dusty. He'll get it. And we'll compensate you with a shirt. We're running low on Dust and Dust and Dust and Dust shirts.
I hope you don't want
We've had to turn some people away because we didn't have it in their sizes, so those are highly limited now. But
Do they
Sizes
trade
are
for?
left, Chris?
Max, what sizes are left for the Dust
I
End
think like
shirts?
small. I think we're out of medium or large. One of the two we're out of. We got XL. We got double X. I hear they trade hot. Maybe not $1,500 a piece hot, but I hear they trade.
Yeah.
Then why bother making it? You know?
Yeah, you're true. Yeah.
Not
But we
gonna
have
trade
some
for
new
$15.
hot merch coming down the pike. If we do if we do Pouring Things, that could be,
Can you repeat that?
yeah. If we do that shirt, then...
Yeah, no, say it again, but slower.
Pouring things, right?
Yeah, what did I
Okay.
say?
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just making sure this is
Yeah.
still a family show.
Oh, Pouring Things.
Yeah, there we go. There
Sorry,
we
maybe
Pouring
it's my...
Things.
I do have a cold, so maybe that kind of ran together. I
Sure.
don't know.
Second time you used that as an excuse in the last couple of days.
Yes. So anyway, but I do have an e-letter, and if you want to send me an e-letter, you can write it to...
E-letter.
Yeah, it's a letter. It's an electronic letter.
I've heard rumors about that.
Cool.
Yeah, and you can send it. You can mail this e-letter to insiders@craftbeertemple.com.
That's right.
That's where you...
Or jamietrekker@gmail.com.
Don't do that. It will
It'll
be
somehow
lost.
get lost in the internet.
It will be lost in the internet. So we haven't talked about seltzer, so I figured this e-letter should be about
I've
seltzer.
made a huge mistake.
Yeah, well, you asked for it.
All right, hot takes real fast.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Chris. Sorry to keep the seltzer talks going. On a recent episode, I listened to you talking about local craft seltzers becoming a thing. Did I already do this one?
Yeah, you did this one
Oh,
already.
no.
Wah, wah.
Did I do it? About how there's so much...
Pretty sure you did this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
All right, never mind.
Well-
Okay, well, I botched that one.
Well,
Total
I really
botch
hope
job.
that you sent Zach Allen of Norman, Oklahoma, a T-shirt for reading his letter twice.
Okay. Well, did we?
Who knows?
Did we?
Who
mention-
who knows anymore? There's so many letters about seltzer. Maybe that's what the people want us to talk
All right.
about anyway.
All right, Zach, you're getting an XL Dust and Dust and Dust shirt.
It's already packaged.
Yeah, it's already packaged. So now we're really gonna have to come up with something else. Okay, here you go. This one's from Elliot. This one's for you, Mike.
Great.
I think you're the only one. I've
What's
been holding
up,
this one for
Elliot?
someone who can answer this. This is from a little bit ago. So, hello, Chris and crew. There was a discussion about sending cans out to distro where they could have been sold out the front door. So, just to clarify, we're talking about beers that. Why would you send something out to distribution when there's a demand enough to sell it at the tap room directly? I just wanted to point out that there should have been some hesitation in that regard. I think it may be a shady area, but some liquor shops near me, looking at you, Wisconsin Dells, have engaged in the practice of bundling beers. So to get KBS, which you have to buy a 15-pack of all day or similarly priced Founders packs. And then there's the guy who keeps the bottles behind the counter and only will give you one if you buy enough or if you know him. My question is, how do breweries the size of Rev or Half Acre or even Founders manage this kind of behavior? Is it on the distributor? Is it worth maintaining that relationship to have to give them special beer just to move your near code bottles? Meaning, do you give them special beer to your distributor just so they'll push through your old stuff? That being said, I do enjoy the show, and I love to listen to your new recommendations for when I'm in Chicago next time. Thanks all, and cheers, Elliot Bunker. So essentially he's saying, here's a reason why you might not want to put it to distribution, because you can't trust the, how they will sell your beer.
I feel like that's a cut off your nose to spite your face.
Does Elliot in the
reasoning
bunker get a T-shirt as well?
If he wants one. Yeah, Elliot,
Cool.
you
Doesn't
can
want one.
send me a letter.
If he's not a medium or maybe a large, then yes, he can have a T-shirt.
I'm sure we'll get more eventually or something. I don't know.
No, I feel like what he's describing is much more of a cut off your nose, spite your face, where releasing those things like harder to find or harder to procure beers to large distribution is a much better thing to do to partner with your distribution partners than it is to try to hold it back and try to avoid this phenomenon, which seems to happen in the Wisconsin dells.
I've
It
seen
used
it
to happen
around
here in Chicago.
I
Yeah.
still see it happen.
Oh,
in Chicago.
really?
Yeah. I've seen one fairly recently do it.
With what beers? With like Bourbon County or?
Not Bourbon County. I've seen it with like Revolution stuff.
Because there has to be a brewery that is big enough to have flagships.
15 packs.
Well, or
Yeah.
15 packs, but also crafty enough to have the stuff that still is very desirable, limited quantity.
See,
stuff.
I've seen it a lot. Well, not a lot. I've seen it a few times, particularly with these breweries that have gone on.
Well,
to
we do it, but other than us, who else does it? That's a joke. That's a joke.
No, last time I tried to buy one Vermontois, you made me buy everything in the McKellar book.
No, next time you
Which McKellar do we have?
No,
Yeah.
Name one.
No, he tried to buy one Vermontois, and I said only if you come here 2 days in a row and only drink Vermontois.
And then,
He said, fine.
and then I didn't buy the bottles, and someone else bought them all before I got in there.
Oh
no, it was Au Baron, and there was also
No, and then someone
Vermontois.
bought all the Vermontois too. I was
whatever,
there, and I was trying not to spend
Don't
much
worry,
money. 'cause I'm
I
not
ordered
making any
extra.
money right
I ordered
now.
extra.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
But
my
anyways,
boy.
to go back to the point, I've seen a weird side issue that's come up with all these breweries doing 4-packs that are big bourbon barrel-aged stouts and stuff like that, where I've seen Bottle Shop basically be like, you have to get this, like, it's not to the extreme of, we'll use Revolution as an example. I haven't seen this, but it's like, you have this 5-pack of Anahero and this 1 can of, Death Star. But I've seen examples less than that. I've seen ones that, like, you have to buy X or Y, and you get this in a 4-pack. I've seen that a number of places in Chicago.
I mean, the first place I remember it was with, honestly, the Sour Sisters
Oh, yeah.
with Goose Island. Like, if you wanted Juliet, you had to buy a 6-pack of, like, Honkers.
This is like
I don't see that, though. I don't see, like, you have to buy a 6-pack or a separate package. There's always, now you have to buy this mixed 4-pack that we as a store have, we'll say, curated.
Oh, I've seen them
I've
literally
seen that, yeah.
Scotch taped together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. That's been a while since I've seen that. That was amazing. Yeah.
This is a phenomenon that's pretty normal in spirits, as far as I understand, too, at the distribution level. Where to get like Pappy Van Winkle's or mostly from a specific Sazerac, to get like the things that they're highly coveted from them, you have to build up points.
I mean,
Illinois at one point created a system, like the state made the distributor of Sazerac products create this system that was federally illegal, and the feds were like, you can't do that, and the state was like, whoops. And now it's just like the practice. It's not the law anymore, but the practice of the distributor seems to be you have to buy all of these other products we make.
Oh, I've had someone show me my points and show me where all my points came from, and then suggest that I bring in Fireball or McGillicuddy's in several flavors.
Wheatley's vodka or something.
Like, I can tell you 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was told, hey, we have this rare bourbon, but you have to buy 3 cases of this other thing. Otherwise, we're not going to send it to you. And, like, straight up, like, you have to do that. And, like, the only reason why...
It's like the vestigial organs of the mob running.
And, like, the only reason why I do that is because I'm going to be like, well, I know this is standard for us. We're going to sell through it. Sure, why not? Like, I can stack those.
That's why they do it.
Right.
But, like, if it was something that I didn't normally do, I'd say, screw you guys. I don't need it. Like, you're rare shit.
I'm going home.
Well, now you're in the position of the end consumer in these places where it's like, well, I need that Juliet or I need that KBS.
I honestly, like
tell that guy to drive like an hour and a half south to Chicago and get all the KBS he wants, doesn't it?
Oh, you can have all the KBS from Chicago. I still got KBS from February.
He's just using it as an example.
But,
I know.
Yeah. But a lot of these rare things aren't as notable as the distributor wants them to be. I would say.
Can you explain that further?
In terms of, like, I don't think that
we're also not answering Elliot's question at all.
Yeah.
What was Elliot's question?
Well, how does a brewery prevent these practices from happening down the line at the retailer?
Can't really. I don't know.
That's unwinnable.
Yeah, that's like you have to police every single retail partner you have, and that's just
So then I guess that is a
financially
potential
viable
reason for a brewery to do a taproom release because they don't trust the craziness. Although I
But
think
that-
those days are
that's-
gone. Those days
I
are
don't
over.
think
can,
that's-
can I throw it in another direction though?
Yeah.
Of if Elliot knows this, or if the breweries put it out there of like, hey, if you're looking for beer X, it should be available by itself and not with something else. Then you turn it on the consumer to start calling the place out. If the consumer is educated, the place maybe will stop doing this type of behavior because, but right now, if somebody walks in and they think that, oh, this is the brewery's fault, like it's going, or this is the way that the brewery wants it to be, and why should I buy a 15 pack of all day when all I want is a KBS?
You almost made it.
Sorry, guys.
Almost
Sorry,
made
guys.
it. It's laid out there. I get it. It's fine. No,
Sorry, guys.
it's fine. I get it. I also think that I don't think most consumers would pin that on the brewery. I certainly never did. Because the places that did it were just really sucky places, and you're like, oh well, it makes sense. This
We're
place
in
sucks.
Wisconsin Dells.
I'll say a lot of this also, it's really obvious to a consumer where so you have to buy X to get Y.
Right.
I think the consumers are not going to, glaze over that.
Yeah.
It's not a common thing they have to do in any other situation.
Yeah.
But hey.
And, I will say some of those shops do look at it as, I think I called it somewhat famously as a jerk tax. There's some of those little shops that like they put their beer, like this was again a couple years ago where you'd have certain rare beers going out, and there would be guys who would just go from shop to shop to shop to shop, only looking for these beers, never intending to buy anything else from that store again. And that store would have regular customers who presumably might want to buy that beer, and they'd be like, okay, fine. You guys are going to do it before my regular customers who keep my lights on get it. I can either wait for them, or I can just not even care and charge triple the amount I normally would. And if you idiots are going to buy it, go ahead and buy it. And that's what I would call, like the jerk tax. And I don't really think that, in that sense, I'm like, yeah, if the shops want to do that, let them do it. There is the consumer who says, I had to spend $50 on that bottle. It's like, well, no, you didn't have to.
Right.
You wanted
Choosing
to.
to, yeah.
And you're getting angry at the, the crappy shop. Because you're not a customer of that shop. You don't have any intent to. You just want to kind of exploit it and strip mine it.
Right.
And so, like, you're not a good guy either.
Right.
So, so I think those days are gone. I don't
say
see them coming back
mostly.
anytime soon. Yeah.
I do see, not in
Mainly
terms of,
because it's all taproom sales. All that stuff goes directly from the taproom now.
I'll say that I don't see that sort of consumer that often, but it still happens occasionally.
It happens at breweries. That's where they go.
But it happens
Yeah.
it happens at Beer Temple. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But the majority of it is definitely brewery now. I'd say 95% of it's brewery now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time. Thank you, Elliot, for the e-letter. You can send me a second e-letter with the size shirt you want, and I'll send you an actual shirt,
An e-shirt.
not an e-shirt. A dust shirt.
A D-shirt.
And we're going to have some cool new shirts.
A D-shirt T-shirt.
If we can get the pouring sangs.
The what?
I feel like this
Pouring.
shouldn't be a shirt already.
Yeah.
I mean,
Porn things.
I don't know why you guys aren't running for that dump button again, but
Right.
that's fine.
Not a cuss.
I
Well,
didn't get caught.
is there anything you, Mike, would you like to say anything in closing?
Nah,
Okay.
not particularly.
Very Jerry Nelson-esque of you. Max?
Oh, no.
Drink more milds.
Okay.
That's my statement.
With black rice?
That's fine. I mean, Anderson Valley put out a good one.
Cool.
I'm behind that one.
But you can't get it.
Now you, in the Chicago market for packaged only, you can get this starting next week, maybe.
Everyone wants a six-pack of 4 12-ounce cans of...
There's
I'm
a drop
behind
that
it.
just hit, but it didn't come with any of their pumpkin beer, so don't ask.
Yeah.
John, how about you? Thanks for coming on. It's always nice having you on and
You don't mean
experiencing the well-oiled machine that is the award-winning podcast, the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Yeah, no, I mean, good
I
luck
do
to you
mean
guys
it.
next year in the awards. I hope, I hope you guys place next year.
Hope you enter.
But in the meantime, I'll see you all on my front lawn. The line starts at 4 a.m. to the left.
All right. Well,
I'll drop
too late,
Holl
too
on.
late.
I will say, if you could do me a favor and let me know when the deadline is, maybe I'll put something together.
No, man, I don't need the competition.
Well, congrats.
He only placed this year. Come on.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, right?
Yeah, honorable.
Yeah, that's it. It's not even
The
a real thing.
the honorable John Holl. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks to everyone. We will see you next week with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.